Welcome back to the marketing moment. This is episode 3. I am your host. That's a word that I'm getting comfortable with, or a title that I'm getting comfortable with. Your host, David Barry. I'm excited to have alongside me a couple of my team members, Nicole Williams. Say hello to the group, and Julia Reynolds. Say hello. Awesome. And we are employees of DB and Partners, an e-com agency that specializes in scaling brands for the brain and the body. So if your customers learn it, eat it, or wear it, we help you sell it. We've created this podcast and the video series for those of you watching it this way for a couple of obvious reasons. Number one, we love what we do. Number two, we feel like we've got some things to share. And number three, very selfishly, our hope is over time you will say, man, these guys really get it. We should hire them. So even if you never hire us, that's totally fine. We're excited for you to come back and spend some time with us. And eventually, if you ever want to shoot us some questions, feel free to do that as well. But we'll dive in without further ado to episode 3. We always kick it off with the digital dash. But before we do, we'll tell you that today we are talking about shoppable websites that make it easy for people to put things in the shopping cart and make more money for you as the brand. And if you're in business for any other reason, you might want to revisit your reasons for being in business. So we're going to help you create a website that, or rather help you understand certain parts of what goes into a really good website to push transactions. So before we dive into that, as always, like I said, we start with the digital dash, 3 of the headlines that are going on in this world. Nicole, would you take us through it and tell us what's going on hot this week?
Of course. I do want to say, though, great intro. You're really getting into the swing of things there.
Appreciate that. Yeah, that's the whole polish thing that I'm working on.
Love it. Okay, so headline number 1, back to microblogging. Reports show what's working on Instagram. So this is super interesting, especially for our field and those creating content. After analyzing 100 million Instagram posts from 2020, Social Media Today came to the following conclusions regarding 2021 Instagram trends. 1, carousel posts have taken both single image and video updates as the most engaging type of post. 2, the caption length that saw the most engagement in between 1,000 and 2,000 characters, making it more of an argument to bring back the bloggers. Those short, witty captions basically just aren't doing it anymore. And number 3, the beauty and cosmetic industry related accounts receive the most engagement on average. So super interesting given our vertical and kind of everything that we work on. Thoughts, guys?
Yeah, I'm going to jump in on this one. And Julia, feel free to add too. We obviously prepare these episodes in advance, right? I'm usually not surprised by the things that we're going to be talking about. I was surprised by this. You know, we talk about the power of video. That's been the thing that brands have been talking about for years now. That power is still there, especially if the video is good. People are going to spend time watching it. But we've always seen the value of carousel ads. I just didn't think that people were engaging with them more than they were with video. Now, the purist in me is going to put the caveat that really the right path for a customer is to touch multiple different types of content types. So maybe video is really good at the top of the funnel, and a carousel could be really good in the lower side of the funnel, whatever. The point is, if a carousel is powerful, I think that's great. And I can understand, you get people clicking through a carousel. That's a lot more of an action than just sort of stopping and looking at a static image or passively watching a video while your cat is over, doing tricks on the side of the wall. But whatever it is. So I think carousel, that really kind of surprised me that had overtaken single images and video. And frankly, the same with your second insight, that long form content in the context of social media posts is powerful. We've told our clients for a really long time not to say too much, because people, are on their phones and they're not going to stick around for very long. On the flip side, and this is an overarching theme, I guess, of what I just said, which is if you have something to say that's compelling and authentic and real, people apparently are willing to spend time doing that. Now, obviously, don't go on long-winded just to extend one small point. If you're going to go 1,000 to 2,000 characters, you better have, a real story to tell. But I think that's, what's really interesting is, Nicole, your point was spot on. Welcome back to the microbloggers. Long form content, which is really carousel with long form text, was a taboo for a long time. But if you have something to say and people are willing to engage with it, you've done a lot of pre-selling in that time before they ever make it to your website, which is what we're going to talk about today. So I was really interested in that. And unsurprisingly, the beauty and cosmetics industry accounts are receiving the most engagement. Makes total sense for what they are.
I do want to add to that kind of how the industry is evolving, also with AI. So there's actually a copy tool right now on the market. I'm not sure if this is like an industry secret that we're letting out too soon. But there is an AI tool that if you basically put in a few keywords as to what your vertical is about, it will then automate copy for you, whether it be long form blog copy or short captions, what have you. It takes everything from the internet, aggregates it, and then spits it out for something that you can actually use for your own website or for your own like social media purposes. So super interesting. Again, 1,000, 2,000 characters. I feel like 5 years ago, it was just being like a millennial in my personal life. Like that's not something you'd ever want to do. That's like so taboo to do. So it is super interesting that this is kind of taking form. And I even find myself doing the same thing. Like I want to read those longer captions and see what people actually have to say for themselves. So super interesting there. Headline number 2, kind of jumping gears here. Amazon set to make 10 times the e-com ad revenue of its closest competitor. So short summary here. In 2021, Amazon is set to make $18 billion in e-commerce ad channel revenue. Walmart follows closely behind with a measly 1.55 billion.
So not so closely behind. That's a huge
weird
gap.
Yeah. Thoughts?
Julia, take a stab at this one. Julia, what are your initial thoughts when you hear this?
I think that's insane. I'm just amazed that $18 billion is $18 billion. I don't even think I can comprehend how much money that is, but good for Amazon.
Yep. It is perhaps, I do agree it's a gargantuan sum of money to consider happening on one channel in 1 year. But then as somebody who purchases, I don't know why I dragged that word out, purchases all of his groceries and a lot of other items through Amazon, I can see how that can rack up very quickly. But I think the part that surprises me is just how far behind everybody else is, which means if I'm a marketer, two things, right? And for better or worse, Amazon is a losing proposition for a lot of brands. That's where e-com starts and ends. Yes, others are catching up, like the Walmarts and the Googles of the world. But if you want to sell on e-com, you have to be on Amazon. You kind of don't have a choice at this point in time. Yes, you're going to lose margin to them. Yes, it's sort of a closed wall in terms of data. But that's where people are going first. So that sticks out to me. But it's also for the individual brands who are trying to set up e-com shops. They are missing, as a smaller shop, you don't have a lot of the advantages that an Amazon does, but you can look at how Amazon is making it easy to buy products. You can see how they're making it easy to subscribe and save to certain things, or to, even after an item is in a shopping cart, to say, oh, don't forget, these are also frequently bought with this. Amazon is driving up revenue for a whole number of reasons. And all you have to do is spend a good couple of hours on the site looking at how the best selling, type of experiences are to understand what that model is. And they're light years ahead. E-commerce is a business that is, or a space rather, that is scaling, rapidly, especially since COVID. And anybody who knows that they need to follow that model needs to be building exactly what Amazon is building. They may not be able to duplicate the shipping functions, but they have to find a way to duplicate the other stuff, or they're going to keep losing their lunch to somebody else.
I do think it's also kind of important to add that Amazon is a business that is so customer centric, and their whole entire business model is built upon that. When it comes to sellers, they really don't, I'm not going to say favor them, but they don't kind of have that same easy, feasible experience. So it is like an odd partnership to see, like, I hate saying the word desperate, but for like brands to be so willing and ready to work with a platform where it's not really easy for them. But Amazon is a great customer facing tool, and it's a lot easier to, again, be the end shopper, be the customer, be the user, because they put value in the forefront for customers.
For sure. And not to cut you off, but I actually think that's a big part of the reason why the barriers are so high for brands that want to sell there, is because Amazon knows that if you are not able to deliver on the experience that they've set expectations for their customers, they don't want you. They don't want to make it easy for you to reach those customers. So I kudos to them, because I think customer centricity is spoken often and not executed well. And all you have to do is look at the average e-com site to understand they still don't get it. And Amazon does.
Mm-hmm. And I do think, again, they put the customer experience before actually pricing, if anything. People are buying and converting on Amazon because it's a feasible, seamless experience versus just kind of like looking at the price point. Right. So super interesting. I believe it makes sense. Our last headline today is going to be influencer marketing continues to grow and is projected to keep growing in 2021. So a few key facts here that we extracted from a few of our sources is: one, in 2019, 55% of companies with 100 plus employees adopted influencer marketing. By 2021, that number is projected to be 73%. Point number two, in March of 2021, just a couple of months ago. The leading platforms being used for influencer marketing are Instagram, Instagram Stories, TikTok, and Facebook. So there's definitely a shift here in terms of, again, Facebook not being a main player. Interesting that I don't see YouTube on this list because so much long form content, right, is on YouTube. So super interesting fact there. Last point is spend is up also. 62% of marketers say they predict increased influencer budgets in 2021, which can be deemed obvious after these few key insights we just provided. So thoughts, guys?
Man, unsurprisingly, and the shameless plug, if anybody was listening to our podcast last week or they did not, we talked extensively about influencers, and what you see here is frankly something that we were kind of in support of, overarching. A lot of people think this is a BS space with a lot of snake oil type of efforts of brands just sneaking in products with people who don't actually care about them. But those who are doing it authentically, they're obviously smelling the benefits of that. We did an audit for a client of ours the other day and saw that the affiliate channel, which included influencers, was converting 23% of the time someone arrived at the website. 23% of the time someone came through an affiliate or influencer link, they bought something. Now, granted, a lot of their ad budget was being spent elsewhere, and this was sort of a light bulb moment for them because they didn't feel like it had been really that successful. But once we were able to put that in front of them, there's reason to stand that they were going to double down on those efforts and make them more authentic and consistent over time. But not surprising news to me. I think this is not going away. You have to, if you're in the e-com space going directly to a consumer, this is absolutely something you need to consider, especially if you're new, because people don't buy from new brands unless they've created something they've never heard of before. And as much as everybody loves your cool t-shirt design, there's a billion of them out there. So that you need some sort of a credibility that comes in, and that gap often comes through, is filled by influencers and press, and the combination of those two. So yeah, not a surprise, and spend your money there.
Which is a great segue into our topic of today. So today's episode, what makes a website shoppable? So from our website, dpab.com, not a shameless plug, we do have a blog post written. It is up and it is live. It is entitled The 5-Step Customer Journey Map. So David, I'm going to let you kind of lead this conversation and kick it off. And from there, Julie and I will add some color.
Sure. So yeah, the 5-step customer journey map admittedly talks a little bit about some things that happen before you're on the website too. And this is not meant to be, if you're listening to this episode for hopes on how to code your website or build a wireframe or something like that, you might be a little let down. Instead, what we're going to talk about is just being able to look at your website objectively. And we talked a little bit about this in the Amazon section in the beginning of the podcast about finding a way to make a website sticky, a place that people are going to hang around and ultimately make transactions on, and making sure that information is available to them so that they can do that in the first place. So a couple of things that we talked about in that blog post, and this is a couple months old, but it's not necessarily old. One of the examples that we gave on the website was Warby Parker. If you're just saying, hey, we have a thing for sale, you can buy it if you want to. There's so many questions that come into mind. And I was oblivious to this until I got married, but it's apparently a common practice for people to buy and try things and then send them back in returns, for example, because it's hard to know exactly what you're getting when you order a thing online, unless it's, prescribed or whatever. But if it's clothing, for example, yes,
I
Nicole.
love that you chose marriage as the analogy. Keep going.
Well, that's when I figured it out. Cause like it's funny, men do shop different than women. If I bought a shirt and it didn't fit me exactly, I'd be like, well, that sucked. I guess this is my shirt now. But my wife will intentionally order multiple different sizes and colors of things to try them on and return them. But it actually makes a great point, because I referenced Warby Parker as an example of a brand that blew up for something that was really unique. And they still do this to this day, which is you can pick 5 frames to try on at home. It's free. And you pick the one that you like, and then you send them back. It removed one of the major obstacles that people have. We talked about the difficulty that new brands have in getting people to stay on their website. Well, Warby Parker addressed that head on. Hey, you've never heard of us before, but we make great lenses. They probably look nice, but you don't know about the quality or whatever. Why don't you find out which one looks best on your face and then send the others back? Wow. Now you've removed any sort of major objection that somebody would have to decide to maybe try with you. And if you don't like any of them, you can return all of them. But there was no risk, right? They were paying for the return shipping too. So these are some maybe obvious things as a consumer, but I'm amazed by how many of them all of a sudden become marketers and forget these rules. if you, or not rules, but guide rails, right? People don't want to assume all the risk. They want to know if they don't like the thing or it's not an exact fit or whatever, that they have the ability to return it and it's not going to cost them a small fortune to do it. And so that's, I think, something that Warby Parker mastered. That's an important thing to consider, is what is your value proposition at the very top? It's not enough to just have like a great design. Pretty stuff is only skin deep if there's no real value on it. So you want to keep in mind things like that, with how people purchase. So we talked about that. We also talked about, on this blog post, acquisition, that like, this is obviously the holy grail for most marketers. Even though loyalty is better, but is the transactions. What are the things where like the money is exchanging hands? Like, how do you make sure through all of your efforts that if somebody's on your website, you're just kind of continuing to like push them down into that shopping cart until they finally buy the thing and leave? You want to make it easy, right? You don't want to have, one of the things that I personally hate is when you like get you add to the cart, you get ready to check out, and then all of a sudden it mandates that you fill out like this whole new personality profile. Like, who are you? What's your blood type? Where do you live? What's your birthday? I'm like, I don't want to tell you all that crap. I just want to I want the thing. I want to get out of here. Some of the great ways for them to do that are to allow you guests to check out, or to give a chance to have plugins where you can connect your Amazon account, or you can connect to your Google account, and some of that information will preload, because people don't want to click. And keep in mind, a lot of us are on desktop computers, in this environment we are, but most transactions these days are happening on our smartphones. And so it's harder for people to manipulate their thumbs and their fingertips, so to speak, to fill out all that information, and you just get tired of it. I personally have abandoned a number of shopping carts because I was just too lazy. But if you have the ability to connect those things quickly, that's a really great example. But here's some other things too. Like, is the checkout easy? I know I started talking about it. Do you make it easy to add other items to the online cart? And can customers see shipping and savings costs before they have to enter their credit card information? Another no-brainer, right? Like, you're being told, oh, this, 15% off your first purchase. You're like, kick ass, that's awesome. And then you go all the way in, you put in your credit card information, and you're like, I don't really have confirmation of what this price is yet. I'm kind of jumping out, over a ledge here and risking it. No, that information needs to be immediately available before you ask for anything else, including personal information, because they don't want to give it to you until they know that saving is locked in. And that's just one example. I'm going to go way out of order today, but another thing to consider is, what happens when they land on the thank you page? That's post-transaction. There's other opportunities there where they might put in information to give you then, where it say, oh, thanks for the purchase. Now, if you give us your cell phone number, we'll send you $10 off for your next purchase. Well, great. You want to collect a whole bunch of information before the transaction and haven't really decided they want to do it yet. But after the transaction, when they obviously have made that decision and they're excited about what they're going to get, they might be more inclined to give you information. So it's a good place to sort of transition. Everybody always wants to get. Very few brands want to give more value up front. And if they are willing to jump that hurdle for you, they will give you more on the back end. But all those obstacles that you put in place, Amazon, we've talked about, right, has figured this out. They give all throughout the shopping process. Have you seen this? Oh, wow, this is available in this size. The people who bought this also bought this. And it makes it super easy to say yes. Great return policies. You order it and you get it in 2 days. They're the behemoth, and there's a lot of questions about the ethical practices of some of their business methods, but people like Amazon because it works. And that's pretty simple in that regard. And now, granted, I'm not suggesting that because you're selling online that you can offer 2-day shipping like Amazon can. If I were to set up an e-com business today, I know I couldn't. There's other things on the website which I suppose we can sort of get to, but or rather that are outside of the site, that talks about delighting people with the shopping experience, with the physical package they receive. But I do want to spend a little bit more time talking about on the site. Not every product or service is an easy transaction. Let's use clothing as an example, right? People often have questions about fit. What happens if I were to dry it? Do I put it in cold water? What happens, or how do I wash it? Now, granted, I'm talking about other people because I'm really bad at taking care of my own clothes, but I imagine other people are looking for these sort of solutions, right? But like, don't put a 1-800 email or a 1-800 number on your website without like a chat feature. No one's calling a 1-800 number. Don't have like an email repository where like, yeah, we'll get back to you in 38 days. But like, that's not going to happen. People want chat features these days, right? And if you can't offer that as an always on thing, AI has made it easy enough to have a lot of the frequently asked questions answered in a chat feature right on the website. I've become a recent eBay seller trying to sell and buy, the cool sneakers and stuff like that. I know my team is laughing at me here, but they have a great chat feature, and I had a lot of questions as a new eBay seller that made it easy for me. People don't want to have to go around digging for information. They don't want to wait a week for a stranger to reply. They want instant access through chat features and or bots. But it goes beyond that. Like, a lot of brands are asking for your cell phone number now. Why? Because like you can actually text a lot of organizations. I'll use our business. I do payroll every Wednesday or every other Wednesday. And I had the thumbs up from the team, and I made a mistake. I forgot to to include one of our freelancers in the thing, and I was like, oh, this is a huge headache. ADP had a texting feature. I was literally able to send a text message to them through my phone as if I was texting anybody else, and they gave me all the information I needed to respond to it, and I never had to pick up the phone. I never had to even go to the website. It was super easy in that regard. So people are now expecting that. I talked about DMs, especially for international brands. They're on WhatsApp now, so you can communicate with with brands and chat features through WhatsApp. Another thing to consider too: people don't automatically think of these as part of their website, but they are part of the web experience. So when you need an answer and you can't immediately get it through a chatbot or a feature, not everybody wants to sit around waiting on that website for a half an hour for their number to show up. But if you can leave your phone number or an email address or something like that to get a text back or a call back in a certain period of time, and then you can leave, then the power's back in your hands. You just wait for them to return your call or to send you a text message. These are all things that if you don't have, are not necessarily going to look you in the face and say, this is a bad move. But what's going to make for a good e-commerce site are the things that are sticky enough to keep you there or to give you answers to your questions quickly and in a reasonable time that shows respect for people's time. And some other things like that. So I'm getting a little long-winded here. I don't know if anybody has anything that they want to add in, but I'm passionate about this. I really care a lot about websites.
So it seems. One thing not mentioned in the blog article, but something super important to bring up is AR. So skincare brands, again, we work with a lot of them at our agency. They are using augmented reality to, again, create those renderings of someone's own face, even on engagement websites. So if you want to try on your own custom engagement ring, which I may or may not have tried to do, you can upload, a picture of your own hand, and then you can actually put a diamond ring of your style on your own hand, just kind of see what it looks like on you. So AR is super important for a lot of retail or clothing, beauty, verticals like that. So something definitely makes it shoppable.
Wow. I actually come to think of it, this was in an app, not necessarily a website, but I did that with a pair of Air Jordans once. I'm talking about my sneaker obsession. Same thing. And I was like, wow, they actually do look really cool.
Awesome. And ended up buying them. A size, you can do so many things. But
I know, right? No,
is this something like your generation? Sorry. Go on.
No, go ahead. I was just gonna say those sneakers are still sitting in a box because now I'm too afraid to wear them because they're so pretty. But we'll talk about that another day. But go ahead.
I was gonna say, Julia, though, is that something your generation likes, or is it something you guys are into? I'm curious.
I think so. I think that if a company's not going to do AR, though, something that I find really helpful on a company is called the Girlfriend Collective. They sell leggings and they show the pictures in different body types, different heights, different sizes. It's not really helpful to say oh, this model's 5'10" and wears a size 0. You're like, okay, great. But how is that going to look on literally anybody else? And so having just those examples is easily one of the most helpful things on a website.
Yeah. And, it's funny you would say that too, the sizing charts and stuff like that. And there's a brand called TrueFit, actually, which separate conversation and shameless plug for them, is trying to solve for this, is make it easier for people to know, what I'm buying if I'm buying from a different retailer. Abercrombie was a brand we talked about, before. Shop's different than the Gap, right? The sizes and the fits are different. But I suppose that's another thing too, when let's say you don't have that sort of great example, but you do have video available to you and stuff like that too. So you can get your static pictures of the product as well. But we do like to see clothing as a great example on other people's bodies that remind us of our own body. I'm not a particularly tall guy, or for better or worse, I'm 5'8". And so I understand that, certain types of shirts, have to fit me a certain way so I don't look like, the little stumpy man that I am. Yeah, or that I'm drowning. Yeah, exactly. So those things, really matter. And I'm going to jump. I told you I was going to be bouncing all over the place, so forgive me. But even, from the beginning of the website, I understand a brand's inclination to want to collect a lot of data from the customers because it obviously matters to them, right? The more that they can get, the more they can market to them over time. But it's, every once in a while, it's like, oh, you're just asking for an email address or a phone number. Sometimes it's good if they're like, hey, you'll get 10% off if you give us one of these things. Okay. But there's also ways to delight people beyond just giving them a one-time deal that they'll never get again. That doesn't engender loyalty. But one of the things that we've seen a lot of with some of our brands, and this is through third parties that have quizzes, on the site. So some of the skincare brands that we're talking about, you guys have figured out this is an industry vertical that we focus in is skincare, is being able to enter information about what it is that you're trying to solve for. What kind of skin do you have? Do you have fair skin? Do you have, oily skin? Do you have dry skin? Do you have acne? Are you trying to solve for, for anti-aging, whatever the things are? This is really useful for you and the brand, because now you're telling them through these quizzes information about you specific to what it is that you're shopping for, and they're able to basically populate the items that are a good fit for you based on what you're telling them are your symptoms, so to speak, or the things that you need. But at the same time, now you've delighted the customer because you're showing them an experience that's personalized to them. Everyone cares about themselves. I'm no different as a shopper. But you've also now collected a wealth of data that says the next time I drop, a group of people into my email database or, my CRM tool, I know that I'm talking to people who have acne issues or anti-aging issues or a combination of those with oily skin or whatever. That information becomes really useful to the customers and to the brand itself. And if you can find win-wins for that, that's kind of a no-brainer as well. And then some other things too that, again, we talk about stickiness. There's a tool and others like it called HotJar. And HotJar is sort of like a heat mapping tool. And for those of you who aren't familiar with them, it's essentially you plug it into your website, not like it's got an actual plug, but you install it on your website, and it allows you to put basically a temperature scanner, so to speak, over your website to see where people's cursors are spending most of the time on the website. It's incredibly useful for understanding, like, man, you've got this really great call to action here, but they're spending all their time over here. So it helps you understand where to put certain buttons to make them quote unquote sticky so that people want to spend time on your site. And at the same time, if people are abandoning the site, at a certain point, you also have tracking technology to see, like, when someone's cursor gets close to the edge of the screen, they're about to click that X box, not the video game console, but the X to, X out of your website. You can also have pop-ups that show up and say, oh man, we know you're about to leave, we would love to offer you blank, whatever X% of this, or, something in exchange for you sticking around maybe a little bit longer or reconsidering your purchase. But so, as I mentioned, we're not necessarily talking about user experience today or coding or anything like that. But we know that there are things that deliver value to people on websites. And if you're an e-com business, you have to think about your customer first, not what you're trying to sell, but what your customer is trying to buy and how they're trying to buy it. And that's my say on the matter. Julia.
I wanted to add that with your description of these quizzes, there is a tool that I saw on a website recently where you just type in your height, your weight, and then you click some pictures like, you're kind of shaped like this, or you're kind of shaped like that. What are you kind of shaped like? And it actually comes up with a answer key basically of other people who put in those same answers bought this size and were happy with it, or bought this size and they said it was too small, or bought this. And so it gives you this real-time result of, okay, so yeah, I think I'll try this size. And it's been super helpful.
Yeah, it's incredibly powerful. And we can keep talking about Amazon until we're blue in the face, but it's stuff like this that they really get. And it's not as if like there are deep, dark secrets here, right? Like, as much as I would love to pretend that advertising is rocket science, it's kind of common sense. But I think we get lost in so much of the buzzwordiness and wanting to be impressive and say the smart things that we kind of lose focus of some of the really obvious insights there. And that's, at a very basic level, if you can think about how people shop, how you like to shop, if you can offer that to your customers, you're probably headed in the right direction.
I think that is a great way to actually end this segment. So with that being said, we will move on to the marketing mazel for today.
The marketing mazel.
Yeah, we really need some intro music here.
We're gonna get that going.
The marketing mazel for today is Burger King enters a chicken sandwich race. Julia, I'm gonna let you pronounce this one as the source of this article. What is the chicken sandwich called?
Chicken, I believe. The Chai King, chicken. I have no idea. I will not be ordering it just simply because I don't know how to pronounce it.
I think you nailed it in there somewhere.
Oh. Probably. I'll just say all of those when I get to the drive-thru.
That's good.
Yeah.
It's the Burger King chicken sandwich, but
you'll know what I'm talking about. Yeah, so this is the newest contender in the chicken sandwich race. We got Popeyes, KFC. Who doesn't have a chicken sandwich at this point? I think Taco Bell maybe coming out with a chicken sandwich on a tortilla. I don't know.
Maybe we need to create a TikTok video of us, DB and partners, making our own chicken sandwich.
Yes. Now that we're experts, our own chicken parm sandwich.
I suppose. Oh, that's right. So as a side note, our team did a team building exercise last night. We took a cooking class together and we all learned to make chicken parm. Our houses still smell like cheese and sauce, but it was pretty good.
Yep. So we're entering the chicken sandwich race. We're almost. We got to just perfect our recipes.
I think that's fine. All right. So we'll put a pin in that maybe for next week. All right.
For the marketing. Sorry, go on.
Oh, yeah. No, I was going to ask you to tell us exactly about this, the marketing malfunction.
Marketing malfunction for this week. Coca-Cola drops energy drink after a year and a half. Interesting. So the Coca-Cola company has confirmed that just 1.5 years after its intro in North America and millions of dollars in brand-specific ad spending, it's discontinuing its cola-flavored energy drink. This already sounds gross. In the US and Canada, Beverage Digest reports. I just want to lay it out there that I even know they had an energy drink, and even if they did and I knew about it, I wouldn't want it. I just want to put that out there. Thoughts, guys?
I'm guilty. So I haven't had a Coke probably since my sophomore year of college when I took a diet and wellness class. However, I was on a long day of driving, probably not long after this actually came out, and I was in a gas station, and I was like, let me try it. Because it's in a Red Bull sized can, or was past tense, because apparently it's not existing anymore. And I made it through 3 or 4 sips, and I just couldn't do it. And that was the end of my experience. Honestly, I thought Coke would have had a chance at succeeding. Maybe others had the experience like I did, that it just tasted terrible. But it just goes to show, though, if you want to make big moves, you got to make big attempts. They swung, they tried, but even big giants like Coca-Cola will fail. And it was pretty terrible. 18 months is not a long time to give something a shot and find out that it didn't work. It's kind of like when they changed the recipe for Coke. If you guys remember that, a really long time ago. That lasted, I think, even less time than that. But
I think it was in the 80s too. They had like a clear Coke. I think it was called
Yep.
But yeah, so that basically wraps up today's episode. Thank you guys so much for listening. I'm Nicole.
I'm David.
Julia. Oh my gosh.
We did it. No, that's all right. We're still working on our outros, but yeah, this was week 3. We've got another great episode coming up for you next week. We appreciate you listening, and don't forget to subscribe. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye, guys.